You're listening to the 150th edition of the Bitachon podcast, and we continue in chapter 37, verse 4 in Tehillim. We're going to have a number of pasukim from this chapter. Chapter 37 is chock full of Bitachon. So last week, these are two pasukim, consecutive pasukim. Last week and the week before, we spoke about the passuk Bitach Hashem asei toiv, trust in Hashem and do good, shchon eretz zirei emunah, dwell in the land, and be a shepherd of faith. And the following passuk is our passuk, and you will have an oneg. Enjoy Hashem. And Hashem will give you all of your desires, all of the things that your heart desires, that you request. So this should sound a little familiar. Lis'anig b'sanugim we talk about on Shabbos, and it's a Gemara in Shabbos and Daf Kuf Yud Ches which quotes this pasuk in reference to Shabbos. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Kol ma'anigas Shabbos, noisena meshalis liboy. Whoever enjoys the Shabbos, makes Shabbos, the seventh day of the week, the day of rest, into a day of enjoyment, a day specifically set aside to have special things. So a person who does that, he gets all of his heart's desires fulfilled. As the pasuk says, if you are careful to enjoy your relationship, we could say, with Hashem, so Hashem will give you all of your heart's desires. So it's very interesting. What is the concept of Shabbos? I'm not going to get into this at length, but we're going to talk about it, so let's talk about it. Shabbos is the day we set aside. We don't work on Shabbos. We don't speak about our work on Shabbos. It's the day when we focus on our family, on singing Zmiras, singing songs of praise to God, on studying Hashem's Torah, going to shul, hearing the Torah reading, hearing the rabbi's drasha, etc. Shabbos is a time when we could say we turn away from all of the actions of the week, all of the involvement, all of the hishtadlus, all the things that we do in order to provide for ourselves, provide for our families. It's all on pause. Shabbos, everything is ready, everything is prepared from before and ready to go. We're just living with Hashem. We're living in a state. Shabbos, it's true of Shabbos, it's true of Shemitah. We're living in a state of pure trust in Hashem. And what's the result of living in that state, living in a Shabbos state of mind? The result is that all of our requests are fulfilled. All of our heart's desires are fulfilled. Now he brings from the Pirkei Machshava of Rav Tzadik Aleph Gerlich on Parshas Kedushin. Pasuk HaKodesh B'tach Hashem V'asei Toim V'vor de Kavana Kan V'yisanig El Hashem. What's the connection between these two verses that we read together? First one talking about trusting in Hashem. Second one talking about enjoying God. It means through Bitachon, through my trust in Hashem, that's how I enjoy. That's how I have an ecstatic relationship with God, an enjoyment of God. Which because of Hashem Yishmuel, like the Hashem Yishmuel writes in Parshas B'Shalach, on the verse that says that we're to work for 6 days, and you're supposed to do all of your work. On Shabbos, you are to rest on Shabbos as if all of your work is already completed. There's no more work to do. There's nothing to get back to on Sunday. There's nothing that needs to be completed. On Shabbos, we are already complete. Da kavana she'asuya al yidei Bitachon Hashem. The intent here is that it's completed already through our bitachon, through our faith in God. And the result will be, can be, or the sense has to be, perhaps we could say, that the result is that we don't need anything more to be done. No more work needs to be done, or will need to be done. Let's say Shabbos would just continue. Shabbos would not end on Matzi Shabbos. It would just keep going. and you wouldn't be allowed to continue to work again on Sunday. All the work would be done on its own. You wouldn't need to be involved in any work. So it's not clear to me exactly what he's trying to say, but perhaps we can understand it by saying that the sensation or the feeling that a person has on Shabbos should be one that this is going to last forever. Shabbos lasts forever. The feeling of completion, and I don't have to be involved in any work today on Shabbos. I don't have to be thinking about my work. I don't have to be worried about where the money's going to come from. That sensation or that feeling, it could just continue. It could just continue. The sensation is one that it's like, it's not just, oh, I'm okay for today. It's I'm okay forever. It's nice. Here he brings the Radak. V'sanig shetismach b'avodas chas Hashem v'tiyanena ba u'yafik ta'avoscha. What does my service of Hashem look like? What does it look like when I'm involved in doing God's will? It looks joyful. It's enjoyable. When a person lives with that kind of service of Hashem, if that's my approach to my service of Hashem, if that's what it looks like, so then Hashem is going to give me everything that I need. Right? And here he says, "V'ayim b'pasuk al Hashem." The next passuk we're going to speak about is the next passuk in Tehillim, in Lamed Zayin. Roll onto Hashem, give over to Hashem. That we're going to speak about at length in the coming weeks. We're going to speak about the fact that when a person's kavanah, when his intent is for the right reasons, when I'm trying to do God's will, when I'm trying to have a relationship with Hashem, I'm trying to serve Him properly, so then the result is that Hashem gives me what I need in order to be able to continue to serve Him properly. It comes hand in hand. It's a relationship. He brings the Reb Sadigon, Oz the Son of Hashem, in Yonai ki Hashem yitain loyamishalis, sheminavshoy, avo v'shleitzim v'spasov. This is also an interesting thing. We've spoken about contrast between prayer and bitachon. Do I need to actually say anything? Do I need to actually ask Hashem for what I want? Or is it just a feeling inside that I know that I'm going to get what I need? I'm going to have trust in Hashem, and it's just going to come without me even saying it. It says, God gives us the desires of our heart. We don't even have to say it. Hashem knows, obviously, what's inside of our hearts, but when we have bitachon, the bitachon is so powerful that it precludes the necessity of saying a prayer or of saying what we would like. Hashem knows what we would like. The Yavid says, Hashem wants to give us our needs when we attach ourselves completely to Him. Why? Hashem is concerned about us. He's concerned about our souls. If He gives us success before we've completely attached ourselves to Him, we run a danger. We run a risk. The risk is that my hatzlacha, my success, will be my undoing. Because if Hashem gives me success without my being completely attached to Him, I would say without my having full humility, without my being fully aware of where the success is coming from, I could fall off the path. I could get destroyed by my very success. That's why it says, when you're misanig al Hashem, what does it mean? Misanig al Hashem means to enjoy God. It means to have an enjoyment. But what it really means, says the Yavitz, is that when I'm completely attached to Hashem, where is my enjoyment coming from? It's not coming from physical matters. It's not coming from being in a beautiful sunny forest. That's not where it comes from. It comes from my recognition that Hashem is the one giving me this beautiful place to be. Hashem is the one providing me with this beautiful lesson to learn. Hashem is the one giving me the wonderful family that surrounds me. When I recognize when I'm attached to Hashem, when my thoughts are attached to Him, when my she'ifas, my desires, my aspirations are attached to Hashem, so then there's nothing barring me, there's nothing to block me from getting what I really need, what I really want, because it won't pull me down if I get what I want. Here he brings a little note from the time of the Be'eliyovim. Sometimes you can have a person who's tzaddik, a righteous individual, but why doesn't Hashem make him rich? So the Tanna of Elio says, that we got to be honest. If this person gets rich, he may become recalcitrant in his service of God, in his study of Torah. Hashem knows what's going on with us. Hashem understands us. Hashem knows that, on one hand, of course, if you don't have your needs, it's also a significant distraction. But sometimes having too much can be a greater distraction. Says Rashi on this passuk, Hisani b'tafnukim al mishantei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's, as it were, it's on Hashem's bill, right? You're asking Him, you're depending on Him for all your needs. You can also ask Him for something extra. You can give a parent who loves his kid. Okay, candies aren't healthy, but once in a while it's okay to have a candy. Like they say in Hebrew, to give the kid something extra, to give him an extra enjoyment. You can do it. You can depend on Hashem for something like that as well. We'll see more about that shortly, but the idea that came into my mind as I read this, as I was preparing, is like you're walking into the king's court because you need to ask the king for a very important matter you need him to help you. And the king in his court, it's a feast. There's servants walking around with hors d'oeuvres, with plates full of food for whoever is there inside of the place where the king spends his day. The king doesn't go through a day without having lots of enjoyable snacks, etc. And you walk in there, and it's Rachav Kiyat HaMelech, right? A king, in order to show his wealth, he doesn't just make enough for himself. There's enough for anyone who comes. So when you walk in there to get an audience with the king, they offer you tables and trays of different enjoyable foods. Right? So it comes with the territory. If you're walking in, so to speak, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's court, you're walking in there to try to ask God for whatever you need, you can also along the way have an enjoyable delicacy. Perhaps that's a pshat in Rashi. Yis'aneg al Hashem. Yitein lecha mishal sebecha. Alongside your requests for whatever you need, you can also have these enjoyments. He brings here from Midrasha Shel Moshe, from Reb Moshe Pe'iman. This we spoke about when we studied together Madrigas Adam. Don't think that when you ask Hashem and you have bitachon in Hashem, that you're going to get your needs provided for. It's only going to be precisely, exactly the most minimalistic requirements to live. Bread and water. And for anything beyond that, okay, my bitachon will work for my basic necessities, but if I want more than my basic necessities, I'm going to have to, put the pedal to the metal, get myself going, go around and, do what needs to be done to raise the money. If I want to have a lot more, if I want to have enjoyments, I'm going to have to work hard for that. It's not the case. Rather, when it comes to bitachon helps me for beyond the minimal requirements of a human being. If I want to have a beautiful home, I want to have a garden, I want to have beautiful hills nearby to be able to walk around and enjoy the nature of Hashem. That's part of it. That's part of what Bitachon provides me with. I can ask Hashem for whatever I want, any enjoyments I want. Hashem will give me all of the desires of my heart. Like the Gemara says in Ksubis, famous Gemara, which we learned together more than once. We saw it in the Madrigas Adam. There was a poor man who came in front of Rava. Rava asked him, what do you like to eat? So the poor man said, I eat fattened chicken and old wine. Very expensive meal, but that's what I always eat. Rava says to him, you're taking money from tzedakah, and that's what you're spending it on? How can you push the tzibur to have to pay for your lavish lifestyle? He said, I'm not using their money. Hashem is the one who provides for me. The passuk says, Hashem provides. Gemara tells us that at that moment, Rava's sister, who he hadn't seen in 13 years, comes into the house, knocks on the door, comes into the house, and brings exactly what this man said. Fattened chicken, it was a gift to Rava, fattened chicken and old wine. And Rava apologizes to the man. We see that even though these were not basic necessities, he doesn't need fattened chicken, he doesn't need old wine, he can drink a cup of water, and he can have a little piece of bread, right? But Hashem provided for him because of his bitachon. He said, Hashem's the one who provides for me. Hashem provided for him to clearly show that when you have bitachon, you can have bitachon for beyond basics, beyond the basic necessities. Alright, that's why the next passuk says, but make your ways dependent on Him. Make your ways dependent on Hashem. What does it mean? When you indeed request of Hashem, or you have bitachon in Hashem that He's going to provide for you beyond your basic needs, but make sure that your intent is not just to enjoy and to eat and drink and be merry in this world. There's bari v'chazak. Keep your focus clear. That the reason that you're doing it is not in order to be, someone who's involved in this world, but rather that I should be healthy, that I should be able to serve Hashem properly. And this is how you'll be able to live a long life. I'm sorry. The intent should be that you're having these things to be able to have a long life, a healthy life, to be able to fulfill Hashem's will. On the bottom of the in the bottom of the Sefer, here in the notes, he brings the famous story with Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Let's read it because it's such a great story. Always get to remind ourselves of it. He brings incredible thing in this matter. It's in the middle of section 11 on the passuk, may Hashem's kindness be upon us as we desired. These are his words. Quote, okay, you can imagine two Go'inei Olam. Yisrael Salanter is sitting with a Rashash, Shmuel Strasun, the famous Strasun library. They were learning in the Beis Medrash of the Gra the concept of bitachon. Again, Rashash Amar ki ein ala adam abetech levtech b'shem ki yimal davar hachreichi. Rav Shmuel Strasun said, you can only trust in Hashem for something which is absolutely necessary. He said, You can't trust in Hashem. You cannot be talking for something that's beyond your basic necessities. Rabbi Yisrael said, no, it's not true. You cannot be talking to Hashem even for something that's not absolutely necessary. If a person has true bitachon, Hashem will provide for him even if it's not a basic necessity. And out of his mouth shot an example. He said, look, he says, I don't have a watch. I could use a watch for a few different reasons. I don't need it absolutely. I could live without it. So it's definitely something which qualifies for beyond my necessities. He says, if I have absolute bitachon, Hashem could give me a watch. The words came out of his mouth. Right away, the door of the Beis Medrash opens. This guy comes in the door and he says, Achli Adoni Ine Bagudasenu Meis Ish Tzava. And the guy comes in the door and he says, look, there was a man who just passed away, an army person. And he left in his will that his watch, his golden watch, it doesn't say that here in this version, but it was a golden watch. The golden watch should be brought to the Beis Medrash. And he commanded in his will to give it over to Rav Shmuel Strasun. That the Rashash should give the watch to a person who is one of the tzaddikim who needs a watch. The Rashash took this watch from this person. He gave it into the hands of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, and he said, God has shown us that you're right. That a person can also trust in Hashem when it comes to extra things. As long as he has complete and absolute faith in Hashem, the bitachon can work as well. Thanks so much for listening. See you again next time.